So that's how it's we need to and we can control and restrict the mind's activities. That we will see how it can be done, what are the subtleties. But to say that mind is the one of the major enemy. Of course, in Gita also you definitely read in 6th chapter how it is it's like a friend and enemy as well, which is controlled when it is not controlled, respectively. So how to control and all you read Abhyasa Yogena, Abhyasa and Vairagya, practice and detachment. So that's how we take up these principles of practice and detachment to control the mind. Practice means spiritual practices, chanting 16 rounds, remembering Krishna, doing some service, following four regulative principles. All these practices we keep on continuing. And Abhyasa and Vairagya, detachment from all those unfavorable things. By that we keep the mind under control. So Prabhupada quoted here how the fundamental thing that how mind can be controlled just by keeping Krishna in the mind. Krishna Surya Sama. He gave the famous analogy from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He is like sun. Wherever the sun, there is no darkness. In fact, if you see that sun, there cannot be any darkness at all. Darkness exists only when we turn away from the sun. If we are trying to see the sun directly with our eyes, then there is no question of any darkness. But the moment we turn away from the sun, then we immediately see the shadow. And even when the sun sets, then we see the darkness. We don't see ourselves also many times the pitch darkness, what to speak of other things. So there Krishna is compared to sun. So when we keep Krishna in our minds, then there is no question of Maya's influence. If Krishna is present in the mind, there is no possibility of being agitated by Maya's influence. So this is what Krishna gave the beautiful teachings in Gita also. When Krishna spoke Gita, before that Arjuna was bewildered by so many illusions, so many confusions, that Andhakar is overwhelmed his heart, and then he could not understand anything, what to do, what not to do. But when Krishna spoke Gita, then Karishye Vachanam Tava, Nashto Moha Smutir Labdva, Tattva Sadat Mayajhuta, Katosmi Gatasange. I'm able to remember exactly. So now my illusion is lost. Now I am fixed up in doing your duty. Karishye Vachanam Tava. That's what Arjuna's, because he kept Krishna's instructions in the form of teachings, then there was no more Maya's influence on Arjuna. So when Arjuna kept Krishna in mind, keeping Krishna in mind, how in the form of teachings of Gita, then there was no more Maya's influence. So keeping Krishna in the mind means that keeping what Krishna is teaching in his Gita, and of course at the higher levels when we are advancing, more and more we can remember Krishna in his Rupa, Guna, Leela, Nama Rupa Guna Leela, these four aspects at higher stages. But at the current sadhaka stage, we need to keep on remembering Krishna's instructions in the form of Gita. Thereby, we keep ourselves focused in our practice, especially in sadhana. That's what keeping Krishna in the mind means. Thereby, we can apply Gita's teachings in our life, especially when some situation come up. Yeah, please. Want to ask somebody?
There are two. There is one more something. Achha, yeah, it's gone. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya is just like darkness. So this is over, no? After this, internally and externally, ke baad.
Yeah, I'll ask you to speak. I'm trying to just explain.
Okay.
Yeah, we will read.
Okay. Prabhuji, that comment needs to go.
Yeah, I'll get.
I'll read from
So
my book.
you are unable to see the comment what I opened.
Prabhuji, I can see the comment.
Okay, okay. So yeah, we are discussing in how Prabhupada explained that we need to keep Krishna in the mind so that there is no possibility of Maya's influence. Means that here, just like Arjuna kept his teachings in uh, in the mind, and then he is trying to do the Krishna's whatever Krishna told. In that way, he is above the influence of Maya. Similarly, we also try to apply Gita's teachings, try to remember Gita, try to recite Gita. We try to imbibe Gita in our life so that we keep Maya's influence away from our lives. That is what exactly on sadhaka level. Of course, as we grow, we definitely remember Namarupa Guna Lila later on. So that's the one point. That one I want to mention. Another point I want to mention here about how Vega, the mind's force, is described in a positive way. When we understand in both negative and positive, we can understand any point. So here I am trying to explain in a positive way how when mind's force is such a high positive force is there, then how one remembers Krishna, uh, what to say, unconsciously also, inadvertently, unconsciously, they keep on remembering, especially advanced devotees. Here one of the famous verse comes in Bilvamangal Thakur's famous Govinda Damodar Stotra. I'll just recite and we'll just explain. विक्रेतु कामा किल गोपकन्या मुरारिपादार्पितचित्तवृत्ति तद्यादिकं मोहवशादवोचत् गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति. So this is a very sweet and beautiful verse, very profound verse. He's saying Gopakanya, a gopi. So what she is doing? She is saying Avochad. She is saying what is saying? She is saying Govinda Damodar Madhava. She is calling out. How? Why? Because Mohavashad. She was completely absorbed, completely uh, intoxicated by the names of Krishna. Then she is calling out Govinda Damodara Madhava. Why? Because Murari Padarpita Chittavritti, because her mind and heart were completely absorbed in the Murari Padarpita, the lotus feet of the Lord. That's how they are trying to call. But when they are calling, so though they are going to Vikretu Kama, they were going to Mathura to sell, Vikretu Kama, to desire to sell. What all they are trying to sell? Dadyadikam. Dadyadikam means all the curd, butter, buttermilk. Dadyadikam, they want to sell all these products, milk products. They are going to sell. Though they are going to sell butter and buttermilk and other things, milk products. And generally, when a the seller comes to different villages, also we see, and they come keep on shouting the names of their products, whatever milk or buttermilk or whatever vegetables. So they keep on shouting. Nowadays they have special mics, recorded mics. They keep on bombarding in the villages and in the towns also. So that's the special advantage of the modern technology. But in olden days, they keep on repeating with their voices. So they have to say that please take butter, please take buttermilk. We have butter. Instead of saying that, because their minds are so absorbed and their minds are were so uh, intoxicated by the names of Krishna or the Krishna's remembrance, instead of saying that, they say, please take Govinda, please take Damodar, please take Madhav, like that. So that's how their their minds are so fast. The speed of the mind in a positive way. Here it's coming out that their minds are so fast that before saying what they wanted to sell, before that only they are saying, please take Govinda, please take Damodar, like that. So that is a That is a hope, that is a positive example here. The speed of the mind, how fast the mind is. So on the negative example, we can also experience. You might have or not experienced, but I have sometimes experienced. Either while chanting also, the mind is goes so fast, rotating so fast, thinking about so many things. Sometimes it may utter also what it's thinking. It comes out as a verbal thing. Though we are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or while doing something in a household life, if the mind is so fast thinking about so something, it just I mean comes out of the mouth. So that's how the speed of the mind is.
Is
Or
it
we can
natural, Prabhu?
naturally means
It happens with everybody, it seems. Is it natural?
yeah, that's the speed of the mind. So even in sleep also, generally some people speak in sleep. That is the speed of the mind. You can observe clearly there also. In sleep, some people has the habit of speaking in sleep. See, the force of the mind is so high, and the speed of the mind and thinking force that they speak in sleep. When we wake up, others say, "What you are saying in the night?" Ah, what I spoke? I never spoke anything. He also doesn't remember anything. But still, people speak in sleep. So that's the speed of the mind. I'm just conveying both sides, negative and positive side. So we need to. There is a speed of the mind, but we need to control the speed of the mind, not to going in towards the negative side. It should not drag us down into negative thinking of many things. So we need to further we to control from positive to negative. We need to find out some things that which make us absorb the mind in Krishna consciousness. There are some activities which are very absorbing our mind. Everybody has their own inclinations. Somebody likes bhajan, kirtans, Vaishnava songs, sloka recitations, kirtans, philosophy, or life biographies of acharyas, Prabhupada, whatever Krishna consciousness gamut we have, the boundary we have, we definitely can choose. Somebody likes cooking or garlands making, various aspects, or jewelry making, decorating the deities, decorating the house with a spiritual atmosphere, vibrant spiritual atmosphere. So wherever the mind absorbs, we need to try to see some activities, and then we need to engage the mind with absorption. That's how the Vega can be curtailed in terms of going in negative way. So that's the one point I wanted to mention, how positive and negative poses of mind at the same time. At sadhaka level, we keep on also and trying to keep Gita's instructions in our mind so that we are protected from Maya's influence. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning here. There's a solution. That is the only solution in general also, that we are saying that Krishna consciousness is the main solution, main atonement. That's what Prabhupada mentioned. The real atonement, not the artificial atonement of other things. So that's what Prabhupada mentioned. However, if one always thinks of Krishna internally, that's what I wrote internally here. Always thinks of always thinks of Krishna internally. And how to serve Krishna best externally by activities, mind, especially the senses here, and mind and intelligence internally, senses externally. We need to engage both. Somewhere I think Prabhupada 15th chapter somewhere writes is one should be absorbed in Krishna. Tomorrow maybe I'll show a statement. Beautiful statement Prabhupada writes in one of the purports that one should be engrossed and engaged, because internally, externally it's coming. That's what I just remembered one statement from Prabhupada 15th chapter, I think 15th purport. So beautiful statements in the same lines that he says one should be absorbed and one should be engaged in the Krishna consciousness to protect ourselves always. And I'm just the statement crossed.
Prabhu, Harikol,
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
one doubt here. Now it is said here that Krishna is sun and Maya is darkness. Na?
Correct.
Is this darkness is the which what we see in the night and day? That darkness in the night.
Yeah. What analogy is saying? What analogy is saying is that only.
But the darkness also required, Prabhu, na? Because in the daytime all the species that work and they get exhausted, and in the night they sleep. And the night when the moon comes, all the fruits they get juice in that, na? So in that way, that is also required. But
Hare Krishna, Suryavanshi
is-
Suryavanshi
yes,
Ram,
Prabhu.
please let
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Suryavanshi Ram Prabhu, always understanding analogy cannot be further explained. Analogy is just for to just show you the point. I understand that that's a different thing. So you cannot say, milk and curd is there, then so there will be always analogies, but analogies cannot be further decomposed. So that's the point.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah. What you mentioned last
Yeah.
time also we discussed
Yeah. Okay.
that we need to see that how things are mentioned here, how things are mentioned, in what context we mention. Yeah, I'm just sharing the document. Yeah, when an analogy is.
May I share one more point in this discussion?
Pardon, please say.
Prabhuji, may I share one more point in this discussion?
Please.
Prabhuji, maybe it's like in spiritual world, there is no darkness, like there is no night and day. And in spiritual world, living beings, they don't get tired and they don't need rest and they don't need to sleep. Maybe that is the thing.
Correct. Definitely, as like here they don't have, but there is also night. Krishna sleeps, Krishna wakes up in the morning, Krishna goes to the pastures. But it's not that there is no kind of they don't go to sleep and all. But definitely they have a kind of a night which is different from here. So here what is mentioned in the analogy is analogy is simple that Krishna is like sun and darkness is like Maya. So what from analogy, what Prabhupada is bringing out, what the Krishna Kaviraj Goswami from Chaitanya Charitamrita is comparing that Maya like Andhakar, the influence of Maya. So we need to keep Krishna in center just like we keep in the daytime. Then there is no question of darkness. So when we keep on remembering Krishna, there is no influence of Maya by thinking about sense gratification, many other things apart from Krishna. So that is the main point from the analogy. So apart from that, we can understand many things also, dark and light, light and darkness in many ways. Yeah, what you mentioned is spiritual world is natad bhashate sujho rasha shanko napavakaha. Definitely it's not illumined by sun or moon, etc. But definitely there is night. Definitely there is a night, but which is different from here. Generally people has to take rest in the night because we are tired and we need to go to sleep. That's why the night comes. Krishna arranged like that. But there is no question of any tiredness in spiritual world. There is no need to go to sleep. But definitely there is a pastime. That is just to increase the pleasure of devotees, increase the sweetness of pastimes. Krishna goes to sleep. Mother Yashoda wakes up. Krishna in the early morning, all the Gopas come, they go to pastures. There is a different world itself. There is no destructive element of time in the spiritual world. Definitely there is time. When there is time, there has to be Ashtakaliya Leela goes on. Early morning, afternoon, evening, twilight, midnight. All these pastimes keeps on going on. So, but there is entirely different experience itself. We don't have that kind of experience right now. But yeah, there will be night also in the spiritual world. Okay, here I think you are seeing the statement. You please read this one. This statement. Oh, sorry. Yeah, please read. Are you able to see?
Yes, Oji. A few of a devotee's qualifications are
Here,
further
highlighted portion you can read. Highlighted.
actually because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him.
Yeah, here, see the same point we are trying to understand that how internally and externally we need to be absorbed One is thinking of Krishna internally, and one is serving Krishna at the best externally. That's what Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. Here also Prabhupada is 12th chapter 15th verse in Gita. Prabhupada mentioning that because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness. Engrossed means his internal body, the internal subtle body, mind, intelligence. And the subtle body is so absorbed in Krishna, is always absorbed. At the same time, he is engaged, engrossed and engaged. Engaged externally, his senses, in devotional service, whatever devotional service that we have, we are trying to do. So such material circumstances cannot move him. So because he is always, Maya cannot influence him. That means material circumstances means Maya, and cannot move him. He cannot be diverted from Krishna consciousness. So internally and externally, we need to engage ourselves in order to be saved from all kinds of distractions that Maya keeps on presenting before us. So that's the one point from Manovega Prabhupada is bringing out, that we need to keep Krishna in our minds and hearts. Okay, we go to next topic. Krodha Vegam Prabhupada brings out. Krodha Vegam. Vacho Vegam discussed, and Manasa, Mano Vegam. Of course, in one way, mind is central for all the senses. As we also discussed, the mind is like a palm around which all the 5 fingers are there, 5 senses, through which the 5 senses and the 5 inputs that keep on coming to the mind, and mind keep on acting in a not symbiotic way. The synergy goes on between these 2 senses and mind. So we need to control. That's what Krishna also mentions in Gita, also 2nd chapter. Tasmat Indriyanyadav. At one point he says that we need to start with controlling the senses. Tasmat Indriyanyadav Niyamya Bharatarshava. So you start with controlling the senses, and also we need to control the mind, as in 6th chapter he mentions. We need to control the mind as well. So they both goes hand in hand. So it's not one on one. Okay, we separately control. Definitely we need to balance between these 2, controlling the inputs as well as the internal forces of the mind. Okay, please read next. Krodha Vegam. Prabhupada is coming out. Krodha Vegam.
Example, Krodha Vegam.
Yeah.
Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether. But if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So we cannot stop anger altogether, Prabhupada mentioning. Yeah, that's very difficult, definitely. But we can divert the energy in different ways. How? Prabhupada is mainly mentioning that we need to divert it towards those who blaspheme the devotees, or those who try to stop our Krishna consciousness. Even on our mind itself, we can become angry. Our mind is rascal. You can try to chastise the mind. Actually, even Kulashekar Alvar, King Kulashekar, wrote a beautiful verse in Mukundamala Stotra. He says to mind that Mabhirmandamano vichintya bahuda yamischiram jatana. Maybe I'll show you verse. Let us recite this beautiful verse. He will relish. Mabhir. So he is trying to instruct the mind. He is trying to control the mind or chastise the mind for reprimanding the mind. Why you are unnecessarily fearing so many things? So here we are trying to understand how we can, and we need to instruct the mind to not to become too much fearful of many things. So it says here, Mahabhirmandamana vichintya bahuda yamischiram jatana naivami prabhavanti paparipava swami nanu sridaraha alasyam vyapaniya bhakti sulabham dhyayasva narayanam lokasya vyasanapano dhanakaro Tasasya kim na kshamaha. Mabhir mandamano, oh my foolish mind, he's saying. Mandamano, oh my foolish mind, why you are fearing so much? That's what he's saying. Please read translation.
O foolish mind, stop your fearful fretting above the extensive torments imposed by Yamraj. How can your enemies, the sinful reactions you have accrued, even touch you? After all, is your master not the Supreme Lord, the husband of Goddess Shri? Cast aside all hesitation and concentrate your thoughts on Lord Narayan, whom one very easily attains through devotional service. What can that dispeller of the whole world's trouble not do for his own servant?
What can that dispeller of the whole world's troubles, the Supreme Lord, not do for his own servant? Can't he do? Can't he stop all these kinds of sinful reactions? Why mind is so foolishly trying to become fearful? I'll become like that. I may go to hell, or I will be suffering all these sinful reactions. No, don't worry. He's trying to give instructions to the mind. He's reprimanding his mind. So in that way, devotee is always can instruct the mind, as I said, the beautiful words also. Instruct the mind, reprimand the mind, chastise the mind. Is Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the famous statement that beat the mind 100 times when you wake up with shoes, and while before going to sleep, you beat the mind with a broom 100 times. So the import of the statement, I heard many explanations, but you beat the mind early in the morning with the shoes, he mentions. That means you keep on remembering the instructions of spiritual master, because the mind is such a rascal that he keeps on thinking so many other things than spiritual instructions. And broom in the night with 100 times, beat the mind 100 times. Means you keep all the dirty things that are collected throughout the day aside and focus again on spiritual things. So that's how the nature of the mind that need to be controlled. We can, the point is that here definitely we are trying to refer to the mind, but we are showing anger towards that. We are using anger towards our mind also. That is the main point I'm mentioning here. We can become angry on our mind. That's the point. For the Vegam, we can be angry on our mind. We can be angry with those who are trying to destroy the name of the Lord, form of the Lord. So we will see examples what Prabhupada mentioned here, that we will see that's what examples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada gave about Jagai and Madhai, the famous pastime. Jagai and Madhai were delivered by Nityan Prabhu and also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them. But though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching Pranadapi Sunitena, Prabhupada mentioning here, though his main teachings are Pranadapi Sunitena, but still he became so angry that to the point that he was ready to kill them with the Sudarshan Chakra. So that's what Prabhupada bringing the point. We can show anger, but when it is required, that the devotee is insulted here. Who Nityan Prabhu was insulted by Jagai and Matai. So that's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry. Though his main teaching is one should be humbler than the blade of grass, one should be more tolerant than a tree, but still he showed the anger. So one can become angry like fire against those who blaspheme Krishna or trying to declare his name and fame. Prabhupada gave two more examples. That one is Hanuman. Hanuman became so angry that we hear in Ramayana that he gave a big slap to even Kamsa also in the assembly Ramayana. So that's the beautiful example. Utilized his anger in right way. Right way. Again. Then Arjuna also here, unless one is angry with the opponents, how can one fight? That's Prabhupada's main point. That you must fight. He has to fight. So anger is controlled here. However, anger is controlled, however, when utilized in service of the Lord. So, at the spur of the moment, though we try to learn all these things, at the spur of the moment, it becomes quite quite a taxing thing to the mind to control the anger. We speak, or internally we may have a grudge. We speak, or we may act also many times, sometimes. So we need to control slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. Especially those who have a particular natures, they have a particular bodies have particular natures. Understanding one's nature, one need to do particular things to control their anger, but it has to be controlled. Otherwise, it will lead to many destructive habits if you don't control, and unnecessary consequences later on. Especially in the devotional lives, many offenses will happen. How to control anger? Here also one beautiful Nardamani and snake story you might have heard. We'll just see the story. So here in the story of how one can protect himself without being touched by those anger consequences. So that's the main point of the Nardamani and snake example. One minute, I'm just opening. Definitely you might have heard this story. So there was a beautiful story that Nardamani was just walking in a forest, and there is a snake comes to his shelter. I'm just opening the document. Here, Nardamani and story. So here the venomous poisonous snake was very much harassing or troubling all the villagers. People will keep on running away from that forest. But once Nardamani is passing by that village and the snake came, but the nature of saintly persons want to deliver all living entities, and he blessed the snake also, that he took pity on him and bestowed causeless mercy of Bhakti. So then so can you please read the statements? Someone can read what snake is saying.
He took pity on him and bestowed causeless mercy of Bhakti. He taught the principles of Sanatana Dharma and made him realize that he was a spirit soul trapped in this material world.
Yeah.
You are so merciful even in this snake body. You have given me a chance of liberation to me. Please instruct me.
Yeah. Then Nardamani instructs, we chant the holy names. Then he surrenders. Oh, I am your disciple. And then he's chanting. It's a beautiful picture that he's chanting Hare Krishna. Baba is returned to his home and peacefully chanting. But the nature of the psychology of people, then if someone sees that one is humble, one is tolerant, people keep on taunting. So here also villagers understanding or remembering their past experiences, they were trying to harm the snake itself. Okay, they were trying to beat him, they were trying to do all things with stones, with sticks, they are trying to harm him. So he got but remembering the instructions of his spiritual master, he was not doing anything. That's the main point here, that though he has teeth and he can bite, but just remembering the instructions of spiritual master. My spiritual master told me that I should not show anger on anyone. So I cannot bite anyone. So he was taking all beatings. Somehow he was escaping and then trying to hide himself, protecting himself. But he was praying to that my spiritual master come and rescue me from this position. So Nardamani came by. So then he asked, my dear disciple, what happened? What are you? I mean, you look so fragile and so all bruises are around your body. What happened? What's wrong? Then the snake explained all the events that are happening. So he told me to chant and be humble without doing any showing to anger to anyone that I am doing. But I was so tormented. I was so troubled. I was beaten. So that's what he was complaining. So Nardaman explained, whenever the villagers come to harass you, you should expand your hood and raise your head as if prepared to strike. That's the main point. Please read the purport.
It is sometimes not necessary that devotees retaliate if the atheists are harassing, but one can just scare them off. However, if they attack, then one should defend Krishna's temple and his devotees properly.
So this is the main point, that definitely not necessary devotees retaliate harassing. If devotees are, if atheists are harassing or trying to do many things, devotees little bit tolerant. But if it is becoming too much and they are trying to harass devotees and the temple itself, then one should definitely show defense to the extent we can do. That's the main point. So anger need to be shown where it's necessary, how much necessary. That's the point, that anger can be utilized in Krishna service. We may not be completely overtaken by the anger, but it need to be controlled. How to be controlling? Maybe when we come to the next part of the purport, where we again discuss the anger, there Prabhupada explains more how to control more improper. But the main solution remains the same. Controlling the anger is mainly because of expectations that we have internally. When they are thwarted, we become angry. So we try to analyze ourselves, what are our expectations, and how to control our expectations. At the same time, we can defend, just like the story of a snake. We can defend it definitely at any time. So that is the Krodha Vegam. Even medically also, it's very much known to everyone that when you become angry, your whole body is intoxicated. Toxins are released too much in the body. So that is not at all good for health, even on a physical level, not to speak of mental and spiritual level. So that's the point of Krodha Vegam. Okay, we continue the next Jiva Vegam. Please read, other devotees.
Yes, Prabhu. As for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasadam. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasadam. That is the way to control the urges of the tongue. One should take prasadam at scheduled times and should not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasadam, the urges of the belly and tongue can be controlled.
Yeah. So here Prabhupada mentioning 4 points, that we take only prasadam, which is offered to Krishna, and it is given by Krishna, means authorized by the acharyas, authorized way of taking, not in shops, and that's what Prabhupada mentioning here, restaurants and sweet shops, etc. And on time, there is also 1 point, scheduled times that Prabhupada mentioning to take prasadam, to control the jiva vegam. And in proper places, in a proper place, we take prasadam. These are the 4 points that Prabhupada bringing out from here, jiva vegam. Tongue always want to, everybody has experience. No need to any great explanations for this. But Vegas, this Jiva Vegam is explained here in that way, that it's a Vega of the tongue to taste. So here Vacho Vegam, when we are speaking, it's also from the mouth. Our tongue also is involved in Vacha, because without tongue we cannot speak. It is referring to Karmendriyas, because the speech is included in the Karmendriyas. 5 Karmendriyas we have, that is mouth is the one Karmendriya by through which we act. Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, Vacha. So, but it's a little different from Jiva Vega when it speaks. Jiva Vega means it's more of a urge to taste. It's a more of a tongue is included in Jnanendriyas. So here is about point of Jnanendriya coming to picture when we speak of Jivva Vegam, tongue to taste, varieties of taste. What is the difference between Jivva Vega and Udara Vega? Udara Vegam is more of a Prabhupada also speaks later on. We'll discuss that it wants quantity, the amount of quantity we are trying to intake. That's Udara Vega. We want to eat more. But Jiva Vegam is different in the sense that it wants different varieties of food. So that's the one point Prabhupada is bringing out here. So we take prasadam and we take authorized in authorized in the sense that we prepare food, offer food to Krishna. Sorry. So we prepare food and offer in to Parampara and to Krishna. And then we take on scheduled times to control Jiva and in a proper place. By that we control the tongue, controlling tongue. As Prabhupada later on explains how it starts with Jiva Vegam. It starts with everything starts with the Jiva tongue. The more we want to taste different foods, then we keep on filling the belly. And further things, consequences will happen. Prabhupada will explain later on. So Jiva is the main reason. Many things, even physically also, medical analysis. People have more diseases not because of less eating, because of more eating. All the diseases are major diseases are because of overeating or uncontrolled eating. Any diseases, not because of less eating. That we need to, of course, Prabhupada mentions that we control by taking prasadam. Prabhupada many times mentions in his lectures that tongue control means take prasadam. Prabhupada mentions, of course, definitely we are taking prasadam. In that also there are many subtleties. Prabhupada will explain, we'll see. So here only he's mentioning a little bit. Later on he explains a little more elaborately. We'll come to that point. We will explain later in the purport. Please continue. Upastha
Vegam. In a similar manner, the urges of the genitals, the sex impulse can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child, otherwise they should not be used. The Krishna consciousness movement encourages marriage not for the satisfaction of the genitals, but for the begetting of the Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are a little grown up, they are sent to our Gurukula school, where they are trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotees. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offspring is allowed to utilize his genitals.
Yeah. So here main point is that dharma avruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava, that we engage the senses. Upastha Vega, that the Vega is engaged in producing children who are more Krishna conscious children. Even Bhakti's dancer Thakur mentions, if I can produce children in a Krishna conscious way, I can produce hundreds of children. Even Bhakti Thakur had 10 children. I don't know, nowadays, even thinking of 2-3 children only becoming a great burden in the consciousness. But previously we experienced also in villages, they have 10, 12 children, 8, 10 children. So because they have the capacity also to take care of them and engage them properly. But at the same time, it's not like animals. Animals also can produce, even other species can produce, what to speak of 10, 15, hundreds and thousands they can produce within days, like mosquitoes and all. Other species of life, they have different reproduction quantity. So mosquitoes and all, they have, other species have so much of a capacity to produce children. That doesn't mean human beings also should follow the same. And they don't have capacity at the same time. And they need to understand what exactly the purpose. That's Prabhupada always mentions that one can definitely, he has as a human beings, we have all these urges, and if one is authorized, taken grihastha ashram, one is allowed to produce children and bring them up in a Krishna conscious way. One should actually, in fact. So that is one instruction for the grihasthas, that they need to reproduce children and raise them in Krishna consciousness. They are, in fact, our future leaders. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, Prabhupada is mentioning, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious children, they definitely can produce children. So how we may not be, then we need to also focus on how to control at the same time. So intelligence means rectifying the causes and not overreacting the results. So how to control the Billi and Udaropastha Vegas, start with Jiva Vegam. So that's the intelligence. So we control the initial point only, the Jiva Vegam, in order to control the further things of Udara and Upastha. Unnecessarily not overreacting in the results of Billi and Udara and Upastha. So we need to use intelligence to control the initial point of in feeding the tongue. So when one is fully practiced in this method of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. So here Prabhupada concludes his commentary that in this way, if one is practicing Krishna consciousness and practicing fully of all the elements of Krishna consciousness, then is qualified, as verse is mentioning, that one can become a guru. So that's why he's concluding. So we completed Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Madropasta Vegam. Just little bit he explained. Now we little bit more elaborately explains in his quoting from Srila Bhakti Thakur Anurti commentary. So here we will little more details we will see. Yeah, some other devotee can read.
I'll read, Prabhuji. In his Anurti explanation of the Upadeshamrut, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urges or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body.
Yeah,
When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called a tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy and the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So here he brings out the main point. One of the main points that we need to understand, that all the urges are categorized into three, as I spoke last time also. The urges of speech, urge to speak, urges or demands of the mind, and urges of the body. All the six also is categorized into three. How the categorization is done, we will see. But he mainly mentions like this. His way of categorization is this, that in three ways the pushings are coming. That are pushings are manasa, vacha, karmana. Manasa, the demands are urges of the mind, manasa, vacha, by speech, and kaya, demands of the body. So in these three ways, the urges are arising. How they are arising? They are arising because identification creates, because our consciousness is identifying with the body currently. Why it is that? Prabhupada very elaborately explains in the second verse. He brings out the whole topic of how these urges are arising. So he explains about three energies. We are all marginal energy. We are identifying here. So that's the whole topic we will see in the second verse. There he brings up. But suffice to say here that the identification with the body or with the material coverings that we have now. So our consciousness is very much stuck at the gross and subtle levels. So that's why these urges are forcing, because the consciousness nahi kashchit kshanamapi jatu tishtat akarmakrit. So living entity cannot stay even one moment without doing anything. that energy is coming from the soul. Soul is always active. So the energy is coming from soul in the sense the soul has the consciousness. Chidananda. We, the souls, have consciousness. Consciousness means energy and energetic. So that energy, the consciousness is coming through the subtle body unto the gross body, and it is going in the world. That's so just like a torchlight. The light starts from the internal batteries. We have energy it's giving, and the light coming from the bulb and going through the transparent media of the glass and going out toward the external world, the torchlight. So similarly, the consciousness comes from the light is compared to here consciousness, and the bulb is compared to soul. The small bulb are nowadays LEDs are becoming famous. The LED is compared to soul. The small bulb is compared to soul, but the light is compared to consciousness. And the consciousness is pervading internally through the subtle body, is coming out through the external body, through the senses, and it is trying to go into the external world, the consciousness. So just to mention here, there's a side point that the consciousness exists in 3 levels: Swapna, Jagrita, and Sushupti levels. You might have heard also. Wakefulness and Jagriti is wakefulness, Swapna is a dreaming state, and Sushupti is deep sleep. So the consciousness in deep sleep is completely taken internally in the soul. Though we are sleeping, dead sleep we call. So we call dead sleep, almost like a dead, because even dead body can't move or can't understand himself where he is. When we are in deep sleep, we can't understand where we are. Are we sleeping on a double cot bed, or in a room, or a house, or outside, or inside, or in India, or where we are? There is no question of any identity or awareness. So that is called deep sleep. The consciousness is completely absorbed in the soul itself. It's taken inside internally. And then when it's a dreaming state, Swapnavastha, the consciousness is little bit expanded into this subtle body. That's how the subtle bodies keep on showing so many fears or pleasures or many varieties of things keep on showing on the subtle level, is acting in the subtle body. And when we are awake, that is called Swapnavastha. And Jagruta Avastha is very much we are awake and we are trying to using our consciousness, involving our consciousness in many things of this world. That's how the consciousness is expanded. So that's the force that I'm saying. Main point is that the force coming from the consciousness through the senses, because otherwise all the senses are dead. That's why Prabhupada wrote the famous statement: this material body is simply a dead body flapping for few moments. Something like that in first canto. Material body is simply a dead. It's simply a dead body which is flapping for few moments. So body is always dead. The material elements are always dead. They don't have any consciousness. But because the soul is there, that's why it's moving. Otherwise, dolls, you might have seen in Prabhupada also mentions in the shops, in the dresses shops, they put all these dioramas, dolls. Though they may have the form, but they don't have life. They have a form, but they don't have life. That is a dead body. Similarly, all these material elements are dead. Simply because the soul is there, consciousness is there, that's why it's acting. So all these forces are coming because the soul is there and the consciousness is involved with the matter. And that's how these forces are energized, coming through this body, through the senses. So that these urges are arising basically when the consciousness is identifying with the body, there comes the urges. So identification with the body, with the subtle body, that makes all these urges. And then when we are identifying ourselves with Krishna consciousness, that's where we try to dovetail or channelize our energies to move in a more, that's fourth stage is called Turiya stage. Swapna, Jagati, Shushupti, these are consciousness levels, existence of our consciousness, 3 levels. And fourth level is Turiya stage, is where is fully realized consciousness, Krishna consciousness stage. So that's how we are trying to. The basic principle is explained by Srila Bhakti Thakur that because the consciousness is stuck at the body and the subtle level, we are experiencing these forces, the six urges. He is categorized into Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, Manasa, Vacha, Karmana, Kaya, Manasa, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. We will see these things. So that's why living it is falling into these three types of urges. And when we are uncontrolled, then life becomes inauspicious. So we need to practice. Then we are called tapasvi, tapasya. So human life is meant for tapasya. Prabhupada many times quotes Tapo Divyam Putrakayana Tattvam. Tapasya is the main element in the human life. That's why we are following four regulatory principles is tapasya. Chanting 16 rounds is a tapasya. We read in Gita tapasya kaya manasa vacha. That's what also last time we discussed. We need to practice these tapasyas at 4 levels, 3 levels. Yeah, that's the point here. That these forces are arising from the identification. For that, we need to do tapasya in order to control these urges. That's the main point. In order to save ourselves from victimization, from papa, sin. How to do tapasya? Yeah, we always need to remember tapasya means these 3 things. Kaya manasa vacha. We need to refer to Gita. Sharir tapasya, kaya tapasya. Tapo manatam uchyate. Mind's tapasya and speech. There you can see more details. So let us go through the commentary now. Vacho Begum. Please read.
Vacho Vegam, when we refer to the urge, or when we refer to the urge to speak, A, we refer to useless talking such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers or of persons engaged in fructive activities, technically called karmakand, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restrictions. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the to speak. D. Many people are talking nonsensical and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. If to counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This
Yeah,
is
so here,
explained in
yeah, he quotes the 2-3 verses here. We'll read that. So main point is that we are identifying with the body, gross and subtle. That's why these urges are arising. And then the first urge is speaking about urge to speak. Vacho Begum. So this is direct category. Kaya Manasa Vacha. Vacha. It's direct one only here. So in Vacha Vegam, Kaya Manasa Vacha. Vacha is only one. Manasa, there are 2 categories will be there. And the Kaya, 3 categorization is done. Of the six urges that we spoke. So he categorized into 3 here. Kaya Manasa Vacha. So Vacha is directly only one. Vacha Vegam. Manasa Vegam. In Manasa Vegam, in urges by the mind, Kaya Manasa Vacha. Manasa, he put two urges into the mind's category. One is mind itself, Mano Vega, and then Krodha Vegam also he adds to the mind only because it's directly coming from the mind. So that's why he categorized into. That is a different way, definitely a categorization, one way of categorizing. Unless we don't need to too much hate split analysis why he does like that, but definitely it can be done because it's coming through the mind. Krodha Vegam. Basically, he puts mind and anger, Mano Vega and Krodha Vega into the category of mind, Vacha Manasa. And Kaya. Kaya is basically, he gives 3 categories. One is tongue and belly and genitals. He 3 categories of Kaya. So that's how he is categorizing. So first he is covering Vacha Vegam. In Vajavegam, what saying same point that people are keep on talking about nonsense things, material things, and also impersonal Mayavadi philosophers. All they speak is all Vacha Vegam. It's all useless talk. Karmakanda sections, Karmakandi people, materialistic talk, fruitive activities. These are all kept under the Vacho Vegam. Yeah, because the materialistic people simply want to enjoy life without restriction. That is all comes under Vacho Vegam. Not only speech, but also writing books. Prabhupada writes here. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books. This is also urge to speak. Urge to speak came in terms of coming out as a writing book. There is also urge to speak. So to counter the tendency is giving solution that divert to the topic of Krishna. That is ultimate solution. That's what explained in famous verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto. These verses are spoken how the literature that glorifies Krishna is the place where the Hamsas and the swans take pleasure. That literature we need to refer. If they don't referring Krishna's glories in the literature, then it's called Vaisam Tirtham, means crows, place of pilgrimage for crows. So that's how it's mentioned that any literature that is not describing the glories of the Lord is a place of pilgrimage for crows, not for persons who are trying to enjoy the spiritual talks. Then it's next verse is famous also. That literature which glorifies Krishna, even though it is pratishlokam abhaddhavatapi, even though it's composed inappropriately, what Prabhupada translates, even though it's imperfectly composed or heard or sung also. So whether it is improperly, imperfectly composed or heard or sung, still it has a great benefit to glorify the Lord. That's the glory of Shrunvanti, Gayanti, Grananti, Sadhava. One should take pleasure in glories of Krishna, thereby engage our speech. That's the main point. The speech is engaged here. Shrunvanti, Gayanti, Grananti, Sadhava. That literature. So here he is giving He's giving point of controlling by hearing and speaking. These verses are quoted that one should control his speech by all these glorifying the Lord either by hearing or by speaking or by singing. Shrunvanti, Gayanti, Grananti, Sadhava. Just to understand a little bit more about hearing, how you control by hearing. So when speakers are available, one is hearing, one is not unnecessarily talking. So one is forced to stop talk. In that way we control. So by hearing, when speakers come here, great souls come, we come and hear. Thereby we utilize our time also and we save that we don't talk unnecessarily by spending the time which is supposed to we are hearing from a great soul. In that way we are controlling our tongue, speech especially. So when speakers are available, we are hearing. Shrunvanti, Grananti. Grananti means speaking. So we also can speak. In that way also we control our tongue, speech power. So when audience are available, or even when not only audience, to our family members, or to our children, or to our relatives, or outsiders, whoever we meet, we can share definitely at whatever level we are, whatever we are experiencing in our life, that we need to share. So, but thereby we control our tongues. The speech, the power of speech is utilized and controlled both ways. Grananti, Shrunvanti, Gayanti, Grananti. So Shrunvanti and Grananti, Gayanti. How they sing? If both speakers and audience are not available, what to do? If speaker is not there, and no, I mean, how can I hear if speaker is not there? Then if no audience is there, then what to do? Then Gayanti. Then one should keep on recite. This is a very powerful tool as well, recitation, especially in Vacho Vegam, when tapasya comes. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapavichyate. And Krishna is saying in Gita 17:15, Swadhyaya Abhyasanam. So we need to recite many verses. Proper translators are regularly reciting Vedic literature. That is the way to control our speech and purify the mind also at the same time. It's a very powerful tool. It's a lot of recitations We can keep shlokas, recitation, stotram, slokas, or whatever you like in Krishna conscious bhajans. Keep on reciting these wonderful stotras. This Bhaja Govindam, Ar Govindam Adi Purusham. There are many stotras, many shlokas are there. See, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. We keep on reciting early in the morning, in the evening, or with children. We also learn many things. Thereby, we control our speech. We purify our mind. That is one way of the best way of to control the speech, or even to observe the mind. So that's why these two famous verses are quoted to show that how we can control the mind, the vacho vegam, by going through literature, the glorifying literature, the literature which glorifies the Lord. That's the main point there. Shunvanti gayanti grananti. Thereby we control. So he's concluding here vacho vegam. Please read.
The conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness.
So just like two verses are glorifying the Lord, so that's how we need to utilize our time. Thereby using our power of speech to realize the self Krishna consciousness. So that is the vacho vegam. Then manasa vegam. In the category of mind, he put two things, two vegas, mind, mano vega and krodha vega both. So how mind vega is explained here, explained in terms of attachment and anger. Mind has the ability to become attached to many things. Mind has a nature of attachment and aversion. These two things in regards to the mind. So the attachment is one part compared to it's given to the category of mind, mano vega, and krodha vega, which is opposite of aversion. When we don't get what we want, then we become angry. That is put into krodha vega. So these are put under category of mind only. Thus technical terms are given. Please read this also.
Manasaha, Krodha Vegam. As for the agitation of the flickering mind, they are divided into two categories. The first is called Avirodha Priti or unrestricted attachment, adherence to the philosophy of the Mayavadis, belief in the fructive results of the Karmavadis, and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called Avirodha Priti. And the other is called Virodha Yukta Krodha, anger arising from frustration. Gyanis, karmis, and materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materialistic cannot fulfill their plans and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desires produces anger.
Yeah. So here, as I said, that we discussed that the mind's attachment and aversion. Mind is generally attached to sources of pleasure, and then it becomes attached there. Anytime we can observe ourselves wherever there is a source of pleasure, mind becomes attached to that, and manifests anger when there is restriction for that. So it is said that the Prabhupada writes in 6.5.
Probably your voice is flickering. You may switch off your video in case if there is a suddenly it started breaking.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How is
There
it
is
now?
still, probably there is still flicker. You may switch off your video for some moments. I think there is a.
I'm trying. Actually, the bar itself being stuck here. unable to access that far.
If you want, I can switch off your video.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah. Are you able to hear now? Hare Krishna, Krishna
Yes,
Krishna,
Prabhuji,
Hare
it's
Hare.
clear.
Hare. Okay.
Yes,
Hare
it's clear.
Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So Prabhupada mentions here one of the famous verses from Upanishads that Manayeva Manushanam Karanam Bandha Mokshayo Bandhaya Vishayasango Muktai Nirvishayam Manaha. So mind is the cause of bondage. Bandhaya Vishayasango. When it is attached to the Vishaya, the senses or the sense objects, then it's bound. Muktai Nirvishayam Manaha. When its mind is detached from the Vishayas, senses, sense objects, then it's cause of liberation. Manayeva Manushanam Karanam Bandha Mokshayo. Both Karanam Bandha Mokshayo. So mind is the cause of both attachment. Because of its attachment nature of attachment is that it becomes attached to particular source of pleasures. Anything that gives us pleasure, a car, building, or my locker, or my books, my laptop, or whatever, my phone, whatever gives me great pleasure, I am get attached to that. We need to see that they are spiritualized. Definitely, we need to be attached to something. That is the nature of the soul to become attached. That's why Krishna says in 7.1. So training the mind to get attached to real source of pleasure, Krishna. Maya asaktamana parda yogam yunjan vadashraya asamshayam samagram mam yathagnasasi tatshunu. Maya asakta asakti has to be there. Attachment will be there, but mind's attachment asaktamana mayi on into me, onto me. So to me. So Krishna is saying that you please practice spiritual life by keeping your attachment in me. That's the main point here. Keeping attachment, knowing that Krishna is the real source of pleasure. So that's the one point, that attachment and aversion that we are discussing about mind and Krodha Vega, Manasa Krodha Vegam. So it's the nature of the mind to become attached and also become averse when there is a restriction in the pleasure, when the anger produces. So our attachment has to be gradually shifted from all these material things to spiritual thing. So one practical point is that we need to have schedules. That is the way to keep the mind on track. Ideal mind is the devil's workshop. It's a famous saying in English. So if you don't have any kind of schedule for the day or for a week or for a month, we don't have any framework for the mind, for the things to work, then it creates havoc. That's why people in the olden days, people have a lot of things to do on a physical level. When you start doing things on a physical level, mind has to work on a very conscious level. Nowadays, people don't have a lot of physical things to do, so they are more free on a mental level. That's why we see a lot of diseases at a mental level nowadays. Even WHO uh, declared that the major problems, the topmost problems in the world are the mental diseases, depression especially, because all these are because of the mental state. We don't have any physical things to do. We are becoming more and more free from physical things. We are scientifically so much advanced that we are making so much of time out of that, but where we are utilizing the time, we don't know. That's the main point. So we need to have some schedules, very schedules. I mean, it doesn't mean that we have such a chronic schedule that we are panic zone, but we are at least in stretch zone. That's why we discuss in corporate world also. They say there is a comfortable zone, there is a stretch zone, and there is a panic zone. And we cannot be in panic zone. Our schedules can be in, but should be in a stretch zone. That we keeping things one by one. That's how only we can keep our mind on track. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to keep our mind on track. So that's one point, that we can have some schedules with our life from morning to evening. Then we can control the mind. by that. We can efficiently control the mind by that. So that is the one point. First is attachment and aversion. We discussed how it has the nature of attachment and aversion. Mind we control by it, by understanding that things will make me bind to this world if I am attached to wrong things, and if I am averse and becoming angry to the same things in a negative way, that also will bind me. So I need to get attached to Krishna by keeping mind on Krishna, by having schedules for our Krishna conscious life, even for our job life also. Thereby we keep our attachment and aversion in control. And how to deal with everything? So with let every perception cause shastric reflection or sensual recollection. So because the mind is working through the senses, so every perception that we do with our senses, jnanendriyas, bringing the knowledge through the senses to the mind. So when they bring the knowledge from the senses, sense objects, through the senses to the mind, the perception happens. Just like when you see a gulab jamun or any Mysore pak in a shop or anything, then immediately there is perception. Then the knowledge comes to through the knowledge acquiring senses of eyes to the mind. It goes to the mind. Then mind start analyzing. There is a perception. Then it's called feelings will come in when the perception causes feelings internally. So there we need to reflect from Shastras. That perception should cause Shastric reflection. Here comes the break. So when the perception happens, then when we by the practice or abhyasa, when we do regularly abhyasa, then it will immediately bring out the Shastric reflection. Otherwise, it only brings sensual recollection. How we enjoyed the sense object previously. Oh, I want to enjoy now also. So that's how every perception. Now we are trying to control the mind, especially here it's mind control I'm talking. So to control the mind, let it reflect the Shastric points than the sensual recollection. So let every perception, either of the senses of all the jnanendriyas, let it cause when we hear music, let us remember some Krishna's tunes or Krishna's bhajans in relate to Krishna. Seeing form, that's why it's a very famous verse is there. It's giving time, but it's a very famous saying, famous verse in Bhagavatam. त्वयोपभुक्तस्रगन्ध वासोऽलङ्कारार्चिता उच्छिष्ट भोजनो दासात् तव maya jayemehi. He's saying in his verse, Uddhav saying that Tvayopabhukta Sargandha, whatever things that you enjoyed, my dear Lord, Tvayopabhukta.
This note is not visible.
1 minute, I think it's going to save the document. Nothing is visible?
No.
Okay, it became blank, I think. Yeah, anyway, I am quoting verse. It's not there in the document also. So here is saying Uddhav that Tvayopabhukta Sargandha, whatever you enjoyed, Sarag means garlands, Gandha, the scents that we take every day. After Nrsimharati, during Tulsi Aarti, we take the Gandha. Sargandha, Sarag means garlands and the scents. Vaso Alankararchita, Vasa, the clothes. Alankararchita, Alankars, whatever Lord wore, the jewelry, etc. Archita, whatever the worshipable water, etc. They are all so powerful. Sagandhavasa Alankarachita, Uchishta Bojano Dasa, Uchishta, Lord, whatever remnants of the Lord that Lord enjoyed, Uchishta Bojano Dasa, Tavamaya Jayamehi, simply by honoring them, respecting them, by keeping with us. Tavamaya Jayamihi, we conquer your energy, we conquer your material energy, we conquer your Maya. That's what he's saying in that beautiful shloka, that all these things which are related to Lord can conquer Maya. Definitely will conquer Maya. That's the main verse is saying. So let every perception cause remembrance of Krishna. If not remembrance of Krishna, at least Shastric reflection, or should not be at all, at least it should not be sensual recollection. Thereby we, of course, there will be recollection. That is the nature of the mind and senses. But we need to try our train the mind and senses to remember more and more Shastric reflection. That's what the famous Ajamila case happened. He was trying to remember Shastra, whatever he read, whatever he learned from his father, Ajamil, when he saw the sight. But he could not trying to control his mind. Of course, that's a very, very rare case. I mean, rare case in the sense that that case is exclusively mentioned to show the power of the holy name later on. But the cause definitely is we can take the lesson that the Ajamila's case is a very powerful case that one need to control the mind when we come across. It's very difficult nowadays, especially in the day and age. Very difficult to not having those kinds of sights. There will be perceptions, but let it cause shastric reflection, not sensual recollection. So that's the main point here. Subconscious mind, we have so many impressions. So let it not cause sensual recollection. Just like when you throw a stone in a pond, though the pond is very clear on top, if mud is there below, the stone will bring out all the mud inside. So that's so we need to be careful that we clean the pond as early as possible so that it doesn't bring out the mud inside. So that's the point here of the mind. So we need to control the mind, purify the mind. Mind is a nature that it always compares, complains, criticizes, further leading to sufferings. Nature of the mind is explained here. So control the mind by guidance of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, by developing more and more service attitude and gratitude, thereby leading to happiness. So that's the control of the mind. And growth also further. Attachment aversion. When we don't have proper control on our attachments, then it immediately, because the nature of the world itself, it doesn't allow us to enjoy eternally. So there will be restrictions. Then anger immediately comes out. So that's the point to control the mind and senses. Continue.
Similarly, the demands of the body can be divided into three categories: the demands of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demand begins with the tongue.
So here categorization is given. Three categories: body, kaya. Kaya is the tongue, belly, and genitals. They are straight line in the sense that they work in a sequence. If one is agitated, then other things will be agitated. That's the main point. Straight line means. Yeah, continue.
Jivha Vegam. If one can restrain the body, the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to the eating of prasadam, the urges of the belly and the genitals can automatically be controlled.
So this is the point of straight line. So when we restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting to the activities of eating only prasadam. So urges of belly and genitals can be controlled. So here he quoted the famous our prasadam song. Every day we recite before prasadam.
Wow,
Prabhupada is very much putting everything here, all the verses. So we need to recite. This is the way we transform our consciousness by the prayers that we are reciting before any activity, either before class or before prasadam. So we try to ourselves more and more go into spiritual consciousness. So before taking prasadam, we remember these verses, we recite these verses, and we consciously understand what we are saying. Many times it goes on mechanical mode, stereotype mode. It happens after many years of practice. But we need to understand how This is Krishna's mercy. And proper translation is also quite graphic. Though the verse is not directly addressing to the Lord, but he is putting in the first sentence, "Oh my Lord," addressing to the Lord basically, not first sentence.
O my Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into the ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasadam to help us conquer the tongue, and therefore let us take this prasadam to our full satisfaction and glorify your Lordship, Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda.
Yeah. So we can at least sometimes I try to remember the translation instead of reciting the verses. We can recite the verse also, and later on we can translation also. We can try to remember and read. Thereby we come to at least consciously understand it's the mercy of the Lord. Next verse we will see how just by remembering it is the mercy of the Lord is the main way to understand and also to not go into the zone of atyahar. That's what the Acharya's commentary. Just to remember that it's mercy of the Lord is the main thing. We'll maybe next class or for the next class we will see in atyahar section. We will read from Bhakti Thakur. That's the main point he mentions that it's mercy of the Lord. Okay, that verse we basically point is that we consciously pray to the Lord, understand it's the mercy of the Lord, and in that mood we try to honor. There is a famous pastime of Kamal Krishna Goswami that one time I think he wrote. I think he was saying to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, let us eat prasadam. Prabhupada corrected him. No, we respect prasadam. So that was very much striking to Tamal Krishna Goswami. He was writing in his book, one of the book, that Prabhupada corrected me that we don't eat prasadam, we respect prasadam. So that's the main change in the consciousness level. We don't eat prasadam. We respect means we honor. That's why we always in Vaishnava etiquettes we say that let us honor prasadam. We are respecting Krishna. Actually, it is feeding the fire, yajna, the Lord of yajna, in the form of Jataragni is staying in the Lord, staying in the stomach. Krishna himself says in Gita, 15th chapter, Vaishwanaro Bhutva. I think 15th chapter or 10th chapter, I think. 10th, I think. He is there as a fire in the stomach. Vaishwanaro. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. It is in 10th chapter, it seems. I am staying as a fire in the stomach. So we are feeding that fire. We are actually feeding the Lord to our mouth. So in that sense, we are offering the prasadam to the Lord. In that sense, so we respect, we honor prasad. So in that consciousness, we take prasad, we honor prasad. In that way, we control the tongue. That's the point Prabhupada is mentioning. Please read. Continue reading. Other devotees? Any other devotee?
Yes, Prabhuji. People are attached to and addicted to 6 rasas. There are 6 signs of rasas, taste, and if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demand. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious person. The use of pan, hatka, betel nuts, various species used in pan, making tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is to be indulged in to fulfill illicit demands.
Yeah. So here Prabhupada is specifically going into more details of how we need to control our tongue, jiva begam. and the extra spices of chili and tamarind, all those things we need to avoid. So definitely these are two categories. So people here are people mentioning about non-veg. Here also there is people mentioning about vegetarians also. But because they are trying to enjoy themselves, that is not at all allow the demands of the tongue to be controlled. But in Krishna consciousness, we are not just vegetarians. Prabhupada mentions we are Krishnatarians. So we are not just vegetarians. Because Prabhupada mentions even monkeys also vegetarians. Even birds also vegetarians. What is the difference? But we are Krishnatarians in the sense that we are offering Krishna wonderful dishes and we are taking his remnants. Uchishta bhojano dasatava maya. Please read.
Prasadam which is offered, except if we can practice chant, accepting only remnants of food are offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization.
Yeah, a prasadam which is offered to Krishna. So we need to, which is offered to Krishna, we need to accept thereby.
Yeah, vegetables, grains, milk products, and water are proper foods to offer to the Lord, as Lord Krishna himself prescribes.
Yeah, in Gita he is prescribing. Okay.
Prasadam also can be harming if it is too much. However, if one accepts prasad only because of its palatable taste and that's he eats too much, it also fails to pray to the trying to satisfy the demands of tongue. So Chaitanya Prabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes while eating prasadam. If we offer palatable dishes to deity with intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of tongue. If we accept the invitation of rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of tongue. In the Chaitanya Charma, it is cited, Jivara Lalasai Ye Iti Uti Daya, Vishnu Dara Parayana Krishna Nahi Paya. That person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate, is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals, is unable to obtain Krishna.
Yeah. So Lord Chaitanya was saying that the Jiver also iti uti thai, Srishnurta Parayana, Krishna Ipai. So as Lord stated, as stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are situated in a straight line, and they fall into the same category, kaya. Lord Chaitanya has said, "Bhalana kaibe ar, bhalana paribe." Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foods. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's recommendation. And even in the category, we are taking prasadam. Many from practicing taking prasadam only. But that also need to be very much careful. Prabhupada, of course, definitely Prabhupada, initial days of Krishna conscious movement, he encouraged. And we also, those who are coming to Krishna consciousness, we encourage them, okay, take more prasadam, take prasadam. We keep on giving prasadam. So that is good also, and it is required to purify the senses, especially those who are averse to all the philosophy or any other things of Krishna consciousness. We especially feed them more and more prasadam. Thereby, they purify consciousness. But at the same time, as we want to, if we want to progress seriously, we definitely need to, as Prabhupada mentioning here, that we need to understand how we are posed by this tongue and belly, how we are demands of this tongue. We need to control. That means definitely we see some examples who are very much restricting themselves to eating, and we may see also many devotees who are honoring very opulent rich foods, rich prasad. So we cannot judge externally who is doing what, especially in Krishna consciousness. We cannot judge. So because internally one may be very much advanced, so one may be taking very rich foods. It's very rare. Generally, sannyasis also, they are very controlled, very. That is not because of they want to show to the people, but because their advancement in Krishna consciousness, they are reaching in a higher taste. So they don't want to unnecessarily waste time in all these things. But at the same time, if we happen to see some other one or two devotees who are very much honoring and respecting prasadam in delightful way, we should not judge them externally. We don't know because the internal mood will be maybe different, the consciousness. But at sadhaka level, we should be definitely control our demands. Definitely on festival days, on occasions, Vyasa Puja, etc. Prabhupada appearance days and festivals. Definitely we can take whatever our heart's content, not the belly's content, and it's allowed and it's a prasadam definitely. It should not be a regular practice. That's the main point. On festival days, that may be allowed. That can be. But we need to try to have some control somewhere. We cannot go havoc. That's the main point. Okay. It's almost time now. Maybe I think we pause here. We'll complete. Maybe I think maybe
4:30.
yeah. It's maybe around 15-20 minutes. Take later class tomorrow. We will complete this one. We'll pause here. And those are, we pause here for the day, and you can continue for your services. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Chaitanya Upadesh
Hare
ki
Krishna.
jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a request to all the devotees. So today at 2:30, only 2 devotees were there in this class. I request all devotees to be present sharp at 2:30 because we delay the class by a few minutes, and some devotees even have joined like 15 minutes later without a notification. So let's respect Prabhuji's time and everybody's time. Be there at 2:30 sharp. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you all. If you have a question, maybe you can remain on maybe 2-3 minutes, or we can discuss tomorrow. Anything is okay. Anyone want to ask a quick question?
What does LCM advise me? LCM?
LCM is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sorry. Not least that least count measure of mathematics.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advice. Sorry. It's a short form of LCM, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. Okay, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Antakoti Vaishnava ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.